Welcome to Serve Then Sell. This is a training space for the Alouette A team, but I have got an episode today that can be useful for every direct seller out there. You're going to look at the title of this and think, no, I don't have a podcast. This isn't for me. Let you look under the sheets and see what is actually happening here. The audio that you're about to listen to was recorded on Spotify Greenroom. Greenroom is one of the many copycat apps of Clubhouse, but actually it's not a copycat because it does something that Clubhouse has not done to this point, and that is it records the room. Did you hear me? It records the room. So the audio that you're about to hear is from a live, speaking room on Greenroom, and then they emailed me the actual audio file, which I was able to edit very easily and turn into a podcast. Voila, it's magic. Well, Suzy, what if I don't have a podcast? Why in the world should I care about this? I believe this has so much promise for direct sellers. We know people are busy. We want to meet them where they are. They don't want to be in front of computer screens or with their nose in the phone. You heard? You heard? There are still people, though, who love the excitement of being in a space, in a live event, and that's where I think Greenroom comes in. Could it be a party setting, and then you have that piece to do a party on demand forever? Yes. Could it be an opportunity event that is live in the Greenroom, and then you've got that audio piece to upload to YouTube or to do some fancy stuff with transcription and graphics and turn into an on-demand video that your entire team can use anytime? Yes. Could it be talking about a product, like a quick take for a product, and now you've got the audio evergreen that will serve you for a long time, but you were able to engage with prospective customers in that Greenroom room? Yes. So think of it as this is just like going live on Facebook, except it's audio, and then the replay is yours. It's something you own. It's not on social media, and we know how important that is. Okay, so the audio that you're about to hear is actually just me taking you through some lessons that I have learned from almost 200 episodes of the Run Lift Mom podcast. I walked through a blog that I did after 100 episodes. I put my marketing hat on in doing so, though. So if you're that kind of nerd, you're really going to like this. So again, it's central to podcasting, the conversation, but I don't even care if you listen to what I'm saying. I want you to hear that this audio is pretty darn good. It's an evergreen piece that I have now from a live event. And I want to challenge you to think about what you could do with your direct selling business with a tool like Spotify Greenroom. What I am talking about today is marketing your podcast. So I'm actually knocking on 200 episodes of Run Lift Mom, which is a show for fitness-minded moms, as the name would suggest. I wrote a blog article about the 10 lessons that I learned after 100 episodes, and I've actually got that right in front of me. I'm going to go through here with these lessons that I learned, but I'm putting my marketing hat on because now I am nobody. You need to know this, okay? I am not Tim Ferriss. I am not Joe Rogan. As a podcaster, I would say I'm average, but as a marketer, I come from that background. That is really why I think that my show has over 100,000 downloads. I get about 800 to 1,000 downloads per episode, which is really great and actually puts me in the top 2% of podcasting. And I believe it's because I know how to market the show. And so the very first lesson after 100 episodes still rings true for 200. And that is that a podcast takes time. And from a marketing perspective, you need to think about that from the beginning. I am someone who has moved from a lot of Instagram heavy promotion to a lot of Pinterest heavy promotion. And the reason why I promote on Pinterest is simply because I can schedule seasonal loops or evergreen loops to promote that podcast and promote that content, which of course is that audio podcast as well as a blog throughout the year. I find I get more long-term bang for my buck by doing that. And I think when you start your podcast, you want to think about the channels, right? You want to know where your audience is. But then I also want to challenge you to think about a long-term plan. If you don't yet have a website for your podcast, I know you haven't hit record, you haven't even started yet. This is something to think about eventually, because the power of having your own space outside of the show notes is really great, again, from a marketing perspective. A podcast does take a lot of time though, and a lot of folks don't realize that. My second lesson, energy is a limited resource, really speaks to that. And again, from the marketing perspective, now I think, yeah, maybe I should have outsourced some of this. I don't outsource anything. I am a one-woman show. So I source guests. I do pre-interview research. I conduct the interview. I perform audio editing, which is an art in itself. I write out the show notes, also an art in itself. And then I manage my WordPress website as well as all of the marketing. Any one of these things could be outsourced. Any one of these things could be outsourced. So if you have the inclination, or you have or are starting a show where you have like multiple hosts or teammates, maybe that is some work that you split up. I recently heard that there is a 90%, 90, there's a 90% fail rate at podcasting, and failure would be defined as less than 10 episodes. So it's never been easier to start a podcast. It's never been harder to continue and to have a consistent podcast, because there are so many different pieces. And a lot of folks don't realize that. The great news is though, you've got a lot of, because the industry is so new, you've got a lot of people that have emerged as subject matter experts or SMEs in these different areas. So it's very easy to find an audio editor. It's very easy to find somebody who will manage your website. It's very easy to find somebody who can source guests for you. There are also apps like Podmatch, which is a community that matches you with podcast guests. It's wonderful. And these things are tools that you can use. Additionally, from a marketing perspective, you could have someone do all of your marketing. You could have them do all of your audiograms, which are like those transcribed pieces where you'll see somebody's picture, you see the transcription and the audio waves. It's a little snippet from the show, something to wet your whistle, if you will. You could have somebody do that as well as all of your graphics entirely. So I would encourage anybody getting started, especially if you've got limited time resources, to consider outsourcing some of that. I want to make mention that when you have these guests, regardless of who sourced them, the marketing part is really important, because you want to provide your guests with assets to use. So one of my big lessons 100 episodes ago was ask big. You never know who is going to say yes. And that is true. On my show, Run Lift Mom, I've had Dr. Stacy Sims. I've had Miranda Alcaraz. I've had Steph Godrow. I've had Wendy Powell, Valerie Hunt, Brenda Sturr, Emily McCarthy, Suzy Zimmerman. I mean, I have got like an awesome list of people that have been on the show. Some great women and men in my Rolodex. That said, you have to get commitment from your guests, no matter who it is, that they will promote on their end as well. I find my episodes that have the most downloads are not necessarily the biggest names, the folks I just rattled off to you. It's people who are committed to sharing the things that I have tagged them in on the various social media places. It's people who, when I give them a audiogram that is unbranded that they can use themselves, they're using that in their own marketing and promotion. It's very much a marketing collaboration, if you will. So if you have a guest that, for example, works through a PR rep, many of these folks do, make sure you get confirmation from that PR rep that the person themselves or their people behind the account will promote the episode when it airs. Of course, relationships come first. And that was my fourth lesson 100 episodes ago. It absolutely rings true. But again, with that marketing hat on, I want you to remember like the marketing piece of it, the promotional piece of it. that is a relationship as well. So make sure that you are giving and not just taking. Yes, they were on your show. Yes, like, they should be sharing this media, but what are you giving them in return? I just mentioned, like, I do those audiograms. I do 2 per episode, and then I give unbranded audiograms, like the raw video file that's all beautiful and transcripted up. I give that to the guest, as well as a raw file with it's pretty. It's got like a template, but like something they can put on their own YouTube channel. I also offer the audio file, the edited audio file, because that is time, friend. It is an edited audio file that they can do whatever they would like with. Some people will take snippets from it. Some people will re-air it if they have their own show. It is up to them. But the fact that the piece is mixed, mastered, leveled, the sound is good, they can do what they want with it. And that is another, like, I'm going to give to them as well, because relationships come first. All relationships matter. I want to make mention of this because, again, even with that marketing hat, okay, like, yeah, your guest is a really important part, but then you've also got relationships with your listeners, and that is important for your marketing as well. We all know how important social proof is. Social proof is very important. And what I mean by that is people are sharing the show. They're talking about the show. I did have a team of ambassadors for Run Lift Mom back when I started it. So this is in early 2019. And for about 4 months, I had a team of 12 women that at least once a week, they could share whatever they wanted about the show in exchange for rep pricing on the activewear brand that I was representing at the time. I would do it all over again, just like that. And I would leave it as broad as possible. Like, their instructions were quite literally, I don't care what episode you promote. I don't care how you promote it. You can say what you thought of it. You can just share, whatever. Promote what you feel resonates with you and what you feel led to. And so they were truly invested in the growth of the show and spreading the word. Naturally, I chose people that reflected my ideal listening audience and people that would be blessed by the content. It was a really great exchange. And when I think about marketing that you can do for your show, yes, you can do audiograms. Like, yes, you can do, some people do paid ads for podcasts. I don't necessarily think they're getting a return on investment. So I would hope that they have a high ticket product, right, that they're promoting in their show. But again, in the vein of all relationships matter with our marketing hat on, that ambassador team was a really great move for me. And what it did is it encouraged the social proof that I still have today. So that's probably 150 episodes later, because early on, folks saw people sharing about the show. And then they, regardless of whether they were an ambassador or not, began sharing about the show. And eventually, when you have enough listeners, people will naturally share anyhow. It does require some coaching, like showing people how they can share. As an example, Spotify has a really cool feature in their player where you can share from a specific point in an episode. So like, if you're, finding like this at 10 minutes to be really powerful, you could share from this point at 10 minutes. As the podcaster though, I have to coach that behavior. It's no different than being involved in e-commerce and needing to coach behavior. As marketers, we all think that, for example, on Instagram, everybody knows what link in bio means. No, they don't, my friend. No, they don't. We think everybody knows what the swipe up is. Oh yeah, if you swipe up, you're going to get to a website. Not everyone does. There are certain apps that, for example, open in Instagram stories. Spotify is one of them. A lot of people don't know if they just click the top left corner, they're going to go to Spotify. It'll open right in the player. They don't know that unless you tell them. So you really do have to coach some of these behaviors when we're talking social proof, and in your marketing and in your promotion, but definitely don't undervalue the relationships on that side of things. So with a podcast, that is going to be listener relationships. Another lesson that I had during my first 100 was to mentally start from scratch as needed. And so the Run Lift Mom podcast has seen many iterations. At first, guys, it was anything goes. I mean, it was quite literally anything goes. I interviewed like business types. I interviewed like anybody that would give me an interview that I wanted to talk to, I would interview them. Now in 2021, at the time of this recording, I don't necessarily do that. It's got to fit into the running or lifting category. I've even stepped away a little bit from the parenting topics because, to be quite honest with you, there are much better parenting shows. And I'm not as passionate about parenting as I am running and lifting. I know with the name of a show like Run Lift Mom, I'm naturally going to have a lot of like moms listening. I know that a lot of moms listen just because of Season of Life and the informal polling that I've done. But my show is for the fitness minded mom. It's not for all moms everywhere. And you know what? I'm serving my audience and I'm serving them well. They don't need to know about all things parenting. If a breastfeeding mom wants to learn about breastfeeding, there are shows for that. If a mother runner wants to learn about running, my show is for that. And so I've really tried to niche down, and I believe that that has helped me grow the show. My marketing has needed to reflect that. So for example, my Instagram account is Run with Suzy. And if you scroll down, 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 way down, you see a lot of like my kids in my feed and a lot of parenting type stuff in the feed. As you get more recent, you see more running, more sweaty selfies, and it's a picture of me in a race, or it's a quote about running. You see more running stuff. My marketing reflects the topic matter of the show. And I've really had to refine that. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. You can niche down to grow. And again, you just mentally start from scratch as needed. Guess what? I didn't need to make some huge announcement that I wasn't going to be covering parenting anymore. I just do it. I just do it. Same thing with mixing formats. I have started to do more solo episodes. And guess what? You just do it. There doesn't need to be a grand announcement. You throw it at the wall. You see what works. You mentally start from scratch as needed. Another lesson that I had in this blog about my first 100, and I will link that in the show notes. So listener, all you've got to do is click details or swipe up. You will see that. Another lesson was to seek advice from others. And I absolutely think this is true, even if you're a tenured podcaster. First of all, you've got to get in a mindset or a mastermind group. I'm in two of them. I'm going to make a plug. I benefit from this, not at all, for She Podcast. It's a really great community for women podcasters, right? So it's for women podcasters, but there's that community there. There's weekly coaching there from people that are industry specific. Elsie Escobar of Libsyn is part of the duo that runs She Podcast. I also love Jess because she's got her marketing hat on all the time. She talks to us about advertising and sponsors and promoting show. And then Elsie is more the tech person. That group has helped me grow. It has absolutely helped me grow. I've also raised my hand to be in different pilot and beta test groups for the folks over at Podmatch. And that's really helpful as well. And I'm calling it a mastermind because that's what those beta groups end up being. There's a 90% failure rate in podcasting. The last thing that I will mention is simply to have fun. To have it be fun. A big mistake that I made last year in 2020 was I decided I was going to get really smart and bat 5 months worth of content. Okay. So for me, it was 16 episodes and I recorded them all in July. And these were episodes that were going to serve me throughout the fall when I was homeschooling and knew I would be busy. Sounds really smart, right? You do all of your recording, then you do all of your editing, and then you've got a show in the hopper week by week. I mean, I thought I had it made. Here's what happened. It was very efficient. It was very time efficient, but it took the fun out of it. Podcasting is now, for me, I would say it's one of my favorite hobbies behind running, of course. And so what that did when I did that, again, while it was efficient, it took the fun out of it for me as well as the guests that I interviewed. Because here's what happens when you interview on a show in July and then the woman doesn't even post it until late October. You forget what you talked about. You're no longer excited about that thing you talked about, and you're less likely to promote. And remember that deep dive we did on how important it is to make sure the guest promotes. So you can give them all the marketing assets that you want in the world. If they're not excited about it, anymore, they're not going to promote for you. It does not matter how beautiful your graphics are or how great your audiogram is. They're not going to promote it for you if they're not excited. And guess what? I found I wasn't as excited. When I finish a podcast recording, this just happened for me earlier today. I finished a podcast recording with a fascinating researcher, Dr. Nick Fuller out in Sydney, Australia. He does work in the weight loss area. It's very, very interesting. When I got done with that interview, I mean, it's like I'm high on it, right? Like I was so invigorated. I'm looking at my personal habits. I'm thinking about other conversations I've had with other guests and how I can kind of string this together for my audience. Like I'm nerding out geeky. This is the best day ever. That energy will carry to the point when his show publishes in 2 weeks. That energy would not carry to 2 months. It absolutely wouldn't. And so my final piece of advice is to have fun with it. And that was true at 0 episodes, as it is at 100 episodes with the blog that I am going to link below, as it is now as I am knocking on 200 episodes. I hope that this has been helpful for you. There has never been a better time to get into podcasting. I will say it again. There's never been a better time to get into podcasting. And if you want a successful show, if you don't want to be part of that 90%, yes, know what you're up against, but also know as you get that plan together and you understand what's involved, you've got to put a marketing hat on it as well. A podcasting hat only won't do if you want to be in it for a marathon and not a sprint. Until next time, serve, then sell. Again, the name of this app is called Spotify Greenroom. It is a separate app from your actual Spotify like player app. You guys, I want to have a brainstorm about this. If you are on A Team, I want to hear from you as to how you think we could use this as a team to level up or how you might use it in your personal business. And friend, it's okay if it's a not yet for you, right? How can we use this as a team? You're listening to this show, so you obviously believe in the value of meeting people where they are with audio content so they can habit block and habit stack and do some other things alongside. This is a really, really good thing in our go, go, go culture. Okay, so I want to hear from you. I'm going to put my email in the show notes. So you're going to click details or swipe up. Well, Suzy, what if I'm not on the Alouette A Team? I want to hear your ideas too. And I'm being absolutely serious. I want you to email me as well, suzy@runliftmompod.com. It is in the show notes. Anybody who emails me brainstorm style, I am sending you happy mail. Yep, you heard. I'm sending you happy mail. So get on it. Let's brainstorm. This is fantastic. And again, this was 2 things. One, nerding out about podcasting and marketing, but more so for this feed, it was listen to how good this audio sounds. And it's a really great way to maximize your time with live events that can then become evergreen content.